Hey, good morning, folks. We are going to continue working on our brushes. We're building brushes and we're using them to duplicate paint-on-paint techniques, similar to what you would see in Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. So give me a second here to check my signal, go through my quick intro spiel, and then we'll get to work. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. You guys might be hearing some construction rolling around in the background. Cheers. Let's see. Okay, great. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I am 100% colorblind, but I've learned how to paint in color using digital tools. And I grew up listening and watching Bob Ross' Joy of Painting as a child all through college. And as I learned to paint in color, I came back to revisit Bob Ross' work to learn how to have better techniques to complement the digital painting I do for the fantasy fiction genre. I've just posted I'm live on Twitter at Phil Kearney. You can follow me there if you want to see more of my stuff in the future. It'd be great help to hit the like, subscribe, bell icon here on YouTube to support the growth of the channel. Like I said, I'm 100% colorblind, so it was daunting for me to attempt to learn how to paint in color, but thanks to the goading to some really good friends, I got into that space. So if you know anyone that's colorblind, that's interested in painting, send them my way. I would be more than happy to talk to them about it. And so this is the second episode of us creating custom brushes that we then use to produce effects. Right now, we are messing around with the mountains. Give me a second here. I had wanted to futz around with mountains a little bit more, so I've got the highlight layer, and then I've got the shadow layer here, and we have a new brush that we had created last session that you can see. So I think I had a little bit of an opportunity to mess around with this some more. So I'm going to merge these two layers down. I want to grab these darks and grab these lights, and I just wanted to take a few minutes here to futz around with these things, with these brushes, the landscape, just to make sure that I like how it feels, and just to have an opportunity just to mess around for a minute. So that's 100% opacity, which means when I click on something, it gets erased. But I've got this tool. It's built to look like this. But I'm thinning it down like this. Not that radical. More like this, so that I can get an edge going to it. So when I carve out spaces, it'll curve properly with the contours I want for the mountains. So I can come in here and I can erase at that, and then I can take the same tool with my I can take the same brush with my smudge tool and poke at the surface of this. It's not as fast. See, well, when Bob does it, he uses a knife, and so he has pressure control that when some of the paint that's on the palette brush grips the surface of the canvas, he can then skirt along that edge to slowly just let some paint drip onto the surface of the canvas, and as he traipses down the slopes, it leaves this broken effect. But we don't have texture and weight control like we do with the live tools. So we have to duplicate the effect with basically eraser marks by scratching through them and then smudging over them and then adding them in, erase, add them in, erase, add them in, and erase, so we can create that broken texture feeling. It can be done, it just takes more effort with the techniques that are available to us in Photoshop as a medium. But the results are still pretty good, so I'm just going to tap away at this for a few minutes just to get some of that texturing in. And I can use, I'm using both colors over here on the side rail here to flip back and forth between light and shadow. So, and then you have absolute rock underneath both of them. So then I can take the brush like this at this angle and tap into the shadow side, break into like that. And then I can go back to this angle here for the front edge, and see now you're starting to get some of these little breaks in here. So that's the sort of stuff that I wanted to get. Yeah, you kind of have to texture and erase, texture, erase. The technique isn't perfect, but works pretty good. And then I got my smudge brush going here, so I can pull up the paint a little bit and smudge it in by wibbling up and down. There. And we can pull the whole thing with about a 40-50% smudge strength. Go back in here like this. So we end up getting the same result. It just takes a little bit extra steps for us to carve through that stuff. And so you can see that I'm slowly rotating the brush a little bit as we go about to create that random, lack of predictable patterning, so that the eye doesn't just automatically pick up what's going on in there. Like that. And here I'm pushing up. Now I'm pulling down and forward to get that blending effect, and then I push up the broad here to smudge and smooth it in a little bit. Get rid of some of those artifacts. Artifacts are when you see a replicating pattern from the actual brush itself that isn't representing any actual texture or object present in the actual world being created by the painting. There, I'm pretty happy with that. Those look a hell lot better than when we started off, so I'm pretty happy here. Just takes a few more minutes than it would take Bob. I'll take this back up to 100%. Here we go. Drop the size of the brush. Get some of that texture in there like that. Just like that. Easy peasy. There, now I am very, very happy. I mean, you could play with these things forever if you wanted, but I am, for the most part, pretty content with how that's sitting right now. So cool. I'm already happy with how the hills are looking. So I think we're pretty good with hills reference there. The next thing we want to do is build a distant tree brush. So we're going to go back into pure black and white. We'll pick up some colors here in a bit, but for now I'm just gonna carve a shape into the sky, and we're going to see one second, gathering myself. Okay, so really distant trees are more like hatch marks than actual brush techniques. So we want to create something that can hatch well. We also want it to be really small so that when we go into the background here and we lose a definition, that it still reads the way that we want it to. So I'm just doing a quick little easy outline of what might very well be a happy tree. And I'm going to carve away at it just a little bit here and there. Just do that for the fun of it. There. All we really want right here is a silhouette. A very simple silhouette, because this is going to be a very distant tree. We want to have strong silhouette language because this is going to be reduced down in size considerably. Because this is going to be a super background, hilltop type of tree affair sort of thing. So we're building the tool that we need for the job that the brush will fulfill. Edit, we can go to, we'll call this distant evergreen. Yeah, we did that wrong. Let's do it like this. Let's go edit. Yeah, that's defining the whole thing. Okay, cool. So what I need, that's what I need to do. Edit, forgive me. Edit, define preset. There it is. Distant evergreen. See? Easy evergreens. Let's go to our brush. We'll go to, I'm going to delete that brush. Yes, I'm absolutely certain. Thank you. And then we can go into our windows. We can go into brush settings. We can turn on shape dynamics and then have projector active, and then spacing is fine here. Call it spin. There, now we can tilt it. Cool, so now we can conceal this, brush, pan out. Let's go fetch some color to demonstrate with. Very good. You know, before I get started, I think I can do reality one better. Let's go to here. Let's turn this sideways. Now let's do this. Edit. Distant evergreen. Period. Now, what we can do, go into the windows, brush settings, shape dynamic, projector, going to new brush set, just an evergreen. Now we can delete this one, because I'm certain, and we can delete this one. We don't need those anymore, because I'm certain. Okay, great. So when we put a tree down, now what we can do is we can take this brush. Since we built it sideways, when we take the brush and we thin it down, it becomes a much more narrow tree. So we can manipulate trees in that fashion. We could even stack them up like that if we wanted to. Make taller trees, thinner trees, whatever trees we need. So we have mastery of all this stuff now. So by turning the tree sideways, because of the way that this circular tool works, if you want it to be able to be thinner, then you want to preset it on its side like that. You have to resave it on its side. If you want to be able to make it stouter, like more stubby, then when you squish the circle like this, it'll accordion like that. If you womp, like that. So on this type of a brush, doing this will make it shorter. And then with a brush like on its side like this, it'll make it thinner. So hopefully that's obvious and you guys understand. Because Bob is your uncle. There, let's go ahead and conceal those, and then we'll go back to the brush that we were using here. Let's go find that color again. Here it is. Cool. Now we can go down to here, and I think we want to keep the top of this hill open, but I'm going to drop some forest in here, just like that. Stippling in, and then as we get further and further away, we make the brush smaller, because that's how perspective works. And then we can take our smudge brush. We can pull at the bottom of these. I'm going to use a lower opacity so I can just pull the bottom of these trees down into the hill like that. Let's take the same brush. Oh, weird. Okay. Apparently, when I saved this, I shouldn't have used that. I shouldn't have used that tool thing. So hold on, I got to redo this damn brush. Brush settings. Not include the tool settings. The tool setting apparently means brush, and I'm a dumbass. This is evergreen. Okay. There. Now. There. Now we're good to go. So now I can come into here, the lower opacity, and delete out some of these lower edges here that we smudged in. smudge that in a little bit. Get the blend down. There. Now I'm using just a gentle smudge and pulling down along the contours of the hill here to help use the fading green to blend into the hill. And I know it's green here, just barely, because it has a very low saturation because the G is barely further ahead than the R and the B. So that means that it has a low saturation. Low saturation means distance. So this is help reinforcing the size, the lack of definition, and the lack of I lost the word. Saturation was the word I was looking for. Thank you. There's that. And now we have, I'm going to pull this up into the sky a little bit more and pull it over on the side of the page just to have it create this neat little break like that. Okay, cool. So I'm happy with that. So next thing I want to do is grab, I think I want to create some water. So we're going to go with back tree line. Water doesn't require any special brushes at all. I'm just going to grab ye old hard round brush, and but the references are important. So wow, look at that steam effect. That's insane. Let's see about grabbing. Yes, probably isn't the best picture to reference for that. This is super glassy, but nice. But that's just pulling from the sky. So let's do that. Let's pull from our sky. Feels right. What feels right over here? Start off like this. We can add in some blue like that here. Then layer in some blue, some darker. I'm using a lower opacity here because I'm going to smudge it all together into a sort of color slurry. Push that back up like that. Here. There. And we're going to take this same brush that we've been using here. We're going to go with a medium smudge. And I'm going sideways with the brush, so because I want to diffuse. I use the sharper edge or the more narrow edge if I want to push pixels. I use the broader side if I want to blend and smooth in the pixels. So I want to smooth in the pixels here, but I'll also want to define the edge of the hill here for the bank. And then I can use my pixel, my mesh. Let's go like this. And then brush settings. There. What the dunk? What's going on? Brush settings. Come on, buddy. Thank you. That's what we want. Carve at that edge a little bit. There, better. All right, and then we'll go back into smudging this all together. Larger brush, broad strokes. Smooth that all in there and just pull it. Push that down here. Oops, we locked up. I'm gonna have to hit save and then restart. See, what is the proper next step for us? Let's grab some front ground, and then we'll start making closer up trees and some shrubbery. So we want to, let's drop in a big old. We'll call that water, and that's good enough for now. I'm gonna take this chunk here. I'm just gonna drop in thick old block of ground. Let it all build out like that. There you go. That's gonna give us plenty of terrain to play with. And once we, and the fun thing about working digitally is once we work in the foreground, we can see how the mid and background are poking through, and potentially change topography or the amount of plantage that's going on back there as well as we go. So for now, this is where we're at. Now what I want to do is we want to create a grass texture. So what we're going to do then is create a new layer. Let's go back up here into the sky. Let's grab the same mountain chisel brush that we've been using, and I am going to take it up to 100%. I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to warp it. You know, instead of warping it, I'm just going to redo it. Just here, like this. And I'm going to curve it down like that. Making a sort of hill effect, right? Because when we go into the brush here, we got this brush going like this, right? We go into this brush here and we make it stubbier. Now it's like this, right? So we can use that same bubble distortion with our grass here, or this little patch of grass that we're creating is curved, because when we squat it down, that'll cause that curve to flatten out. So now I'm going to come in this way backwards. And carve out the interior of this. Build this back in like this. All right, so we're going to then highlight this like we do, and then edit, and then define brush sets. We're going to call this grass blades. Burp. So we go in here to the brush sets. Grass blades. Cool, okay, so that's how the brush looks when you just tap it. Now if we distort our bubble, now it's like that, see? We can use that, bop, 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 bop. Here, let's go grab some reference color here. So this is just the way that colorblind works. You just gotta find yourself a decent, it's stupid simple. Just grab yourself a reliable picture with colors that you can trust. Can I trust these colors? That one looks pretty good. And then we got our shadow here. So yeah, let's try using that and see how this thing shakes out. Brush. Pretty simple. I'm just patching this in, tap, tap, tap. Oh man, that highlight is high. Nice. All right, so then we're going to go with our highlight layer. That is a very sharp, very sharp green compared to what we had. So I'm going to go with, I want saturation. I want more saturation than we had in the far back. Let's do that, and let's try using, let's see what happens if we only use a 30% opacity when we're layering in some of this green. Let's see how that plays out for us. Let's go back to the same. Let's use the same for the eraser. smaller size. I'm just messing around, so everything's always an experiment. That down, probably like that. That's probably where I actually want to be. Make it up to 100. Like that. Nice. Let's drop that there. I'm actually going to leave that ridge line like that. I actually want to open up another layer. I like how this stuff is layering together so far. So I want to create another layer where I can safely just splash color inside of here. Very akin to anime cell shading, where we're doing like striated amounts of defined color, if that makes any sense. I actually want to pull and smudge this down here a bit. Timer. Let's take a sip of coffee. Consider our next move. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see. Foreground is what we're going to call this group in general. We got the grass. We have the dirt. Now let's take, we can just take a normal round brush. I can take our chisel. And take that glob of paint and just, same as we did with the mountains up top, we can pull this color around onto the surface of this rock for highlights. What is your deal, buddy? Why are you not? I'm apparently having some technical difficulties. Oh, that's why. There we go. Let's get a little depth in there, a little curvature. Does not need to be a lot. This, I'm thinking of a rock like that. feel like I need a lighter highlight than what I have here already. I'm going to sharpen this up a bit. Just because my gut tells me to. Maybe a little bit more. I wanted a bit more contrast with the light, with the grass. I know that the color is different because of the way that, like, that's a lot of difference in color. The saturation is about the same though, so I wanted to make sure I had a brighter highlight color for the rocks so that it would stand out just a little bit more. And I have no idea if this color is good or not. It's just I'm just going off of my gut. So anyone, if anyone out there that's lurking or that you catch this after the fact, be welcome to drop down in the comments below if this is a good color to choose or not. There. Just dropping a couple little rocks in. You want to actually add another big chunk of rock. I'm going to put one right here. I think I'm going to go with a deeper color. There. Just drop a big old rock in there like that. And darken that texture up underneath there as well. Now that I've darkened up that shadow, I actually do like this this base rock color a little bit more. So let's just stick with that for a bit. Not worry about that highlight we found. Let's just stick with this. That. Go back to this. We'll flush that out. There. It's a fine looking stone. We don't have to worry about all these little tags and stuff. They don't really matter. We're gonna just fold that all into the piece. So let's take another layer here, and then let's just drop highlights on top of it here. Just gonna blend this in a little bit here. There. I'm just gonna smudge this down to create extra layers. The further away from the top edge here we get, the more we want to fall into shadow to represent depth and curvature. Boop, boop, boop. There. Now we're going to go back through with this brush here, and we're going to erase at those bits a little bit. Get that grass back up into there. There, got some rocky patchiness going on there. I think I'm okay. I'm going to call those rocks. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to build a larger brush for trees, so that we can drop big trees into the piece. So to do that, we're going to jump back up here into the sky, black and white. Let's try this out. This looks like a fun idea. Let's start with that. And then we'll switch to this brush. Carve at that like that. Yeah. Now we can edit, define brush shape, and we're going to go with branch needles. And then let's go to Windows, and then brush settings, shape dynamic, projector. Brush needles, and then go into here and then get rid of the branch needles. The original one, delete. We can create fun little shapes like that, and if we reduce, got fun shapes like that. So that should do well for us. Hopefully it does. Let's build with it and see if it does. So let's get this out of the way. And let's go back into our reference here, and let's find some good green to start with. Actually, I want to have a separate brush. So what we're doing here is we're taking this this brush tip that we just made like this, and now we're going to use it to build on top. We built this rough line here for a trunk, and now we're going to use really small at the top and work our way to really large at the bottom and see if this is, I question if this has enough symmetry to be able to serve well as a branch, but we're going to find out. So start small like this, and we'll start tapping down, and as we go along, we're just going to make the brush bigger. Thin it up like that and just. I'm just going to use an eraser and chop at it. See if that turns out okay. We're experimenting here. I've never used this, just made up this brush to see if it works. I don't know if it does or not. So if I need to go back and make a change, then we'll go back and make a change. Right now we're just trying to see how well does it chop in and stipple with us. Yeah, it's okay. I think I want to build something different. Let's go, let's build something different. Just gonna go back to a hard round brush here. Go to black. Let's build something a little bit more universal. Really simple, silly shape. Let's see if we have fun with it. Minutes on the board. I bet that can end up being a cool brush. Let's edit. Let's save this as our pre-brush. Let's see how that shakes out. Define pre-brush. Let's go with branch 2. And then we can window, brush settings, brush dynamic, projector here. Branch 2, we can go in. All right, let's try this again. Did I? Oh, fuck you, man. I screwed up with the branch. I made the same layer for the trunk as I did for the branches. So that's a mistake on my part. I'm just gonna redo that. Yeah, this should work out better. Just gonna tilt this back and forth a little bit. I don't know how well this is gonna turn out. Picking at the edges here. Let's do like that. Yeah, I have no idea if this is going to turn out well or not. I'm just going to mess around with what we know. I gotta get used to the curve here. This is like here's one of the brushes that I use in the other paintings that I've demonstrated is, let's go find it here real quick. This is a brush I use a lot. And see, I can curve that down. So we're exploring with a different type of brush right now, but I may well just go back and cheat and use the same old brush that I built. But I'm just trying to build and create with something new. I'm gonna chop at this bit a little bit. I think that's horrible. I think I do want to go back and use this brush though, because I'm a cheater. I'll include this brush as well. Just add a little bit of texture here. Just drop it in. Add that all in like that. There we go. It's a big old block. There's a big old block of texture in there. See, that's not a bad looking tree. I did cheat a little bit by using one of our older brushes, but I'm pretty pleased with the effect. When we finish with this painting, we'll provide this brush set and we'll put it up online. Folks to go grab. Let's do something similar over on this side. Cut that, drop it into here, merge that down. These are the trunk layer. Let's try doing this then. I don't know if I like it eating up that much landscape. Let me just decide to get rid of this one. I don't know if that's adding value or not. I'm gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna get rid of that, and let's try that again. Yeah, I'm not feeling these guys being over here at all. I don't think that's the right path for me. I think what I want to do. Yeah, I think what I want to do is go back down here to the water layer. Grass, dirt, water. Let's do this. Let's grab all that. We'll copy and we'll paste. And I'm going to. So what I did was I selected all this area, and then I made a duplicate of it. And now I'm going to free transform. I'm going to flip it horizontal. I'm going to free transform, flip it vertical. I'm going to take our foreground, add all that back in. Now we're going to push this down. I'm going to conceal all that for now. There. And now I'm using a fading tool here on a layer mask. See, this layer mask is concealing. I can disable this. And I dropped this behind the hills, the back tree line, the mountains, and you can see where the sky is rolling over itself. And then when I add the layer back, and it makes it disappear. And by placing this underneath the tree line, the hills, and the mountain backdrop, it allows all this reflection to be underneath where the actual terrain is. Here like that. I can just take my smudge brush and just ease it back into the coastline here. Be able to create where this coastline is at. There. So we got a reflection going now. So that'll add a lot of interest to this area. So as it is, that was kind of a dead space. So we needed to create points of interest back here to help balance the picture. So we're going to drop in a bunch of shrubbery and stuff down along here. But for now, we want to let's work on dropping the opacity on that a little bit to make it a little more dark and reflections. So that sits pretty good for now. And we'll be able to come back and we'll be able to put like ripples and water lines and breaks in it. But I just want to have that there now to help create the negative space here for us to be able to see where it is exactly we want to drop in shrubbery to make sure that this thing stays interesting. I'm concerned about the lack of how this is sliding this way. It's pushing it off of the page. So we're going to want to do something about that, but I'm not sure exactly what it is we want to do yet. But yeah, as it is, this is kind of sliding. The whole composition is kind of sliding to the right. So what I could do is I could do something snappy. Make a trash folder out of that for now. Could do something like create a branch that breaks off into this space. That's certainly a thing that could be done. Where are we at? Okay, we've got another 20 minutes, so let's just keep working the problem. Yeah, no problem. Build another tree here, my friend. This looks pretty good. Trim that down a little bit. Yeah. All right, cool. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's start adding in some highlights for these trees. Interesting. That's actually going to be funny. You can pick at trees forever, but at some point they're only going to get so good. So Choose your battles wisely. So this is a highlight color that we're going to use. We want less frequency than the shadow underneath it. The shadow is the base that the highlights sit on top of. So there has to be significantly less. You want to have it in a separate layer so that you can pick at it separately and erase at it while leaving the darker color underneath it. And the further down you get, the less highlighting there's going to be. So you pick your direction, your light source, so that you use that to lean into your bias towards where the light is hitting. And then you pick at and erase the highlights as you go further down the page so that it just disappears into the shadow of its own form. Yeah. There you go. All these brushes will be able to provide for you. I'm not going to charge you anything. There. And now we can go to this and do the same thing. There you go. And here I'm using an eraser at 20%. So I'm only getting rid of 20% of the color information every time I tap at it so that I can have form distortion, having the highlights curve into darkness as you move your way around the tree. There. Not bad. Okay, cool. So next thing we can do is, let's see about building. We're going to take these and we're going to drop these into a tree layer. Tree. And let's go. Those are the two brushes that we created there. Now let's see about creating a shrubbery brush. So we're going to take round brush here. Shrubbery is interesting because it's just little tufts of leaves. So we want to create like a little cloud. Like we want to have our general shrub shape, right? So we're going to use that as our guideline. We're going to create, I'm going to try doing like little triangle type things. Little spiky bits. I don't know how this is going to, again, I don't know how this is going to turn out. The brush set that I have, I created over many cycles, and it's you have to figure out the lines and the angles that you want, and there's a lot of experimentation that goes into it. I'm more than happy to provide the brushes that I've created, but this is an opportunity for us to create brand new brushes and for you to be able to experiment with what you like and what you don't. Oops. There we go. Again, I don't know if this is going to be a good shape or not, but we're just going to build this little. We got this curve again. We're doing a curvature so that we can distort the shape of it as we manipulate the brush setting, so we can get a little bit more out of it than just a static shape. And I want to have decent separation between each element here, so that when we reduce the size of it, it can still retain some of this language, but. We'll see how this sits. Okay, cool. Let's do that. And then edit. We'll call this bush tuft. And then we're going to go into Windows, brush settings, shape dynamic, projector, save, new brush preset as brush tuft. Okay, we can go in here, we can delete that brush tuft, delete that bush. See, now it rotates. Brush. Let's see if we like what this does. Let's go find a reference here again to find some interesting bits down inside here. Yeah, we'll start with that. Woof. All right, I'm gonna grab that and grab that. I actually want to go down here. This. Let's take the same brush that we just built, use it as our eraser as well. Carve through stuff like that. Take our smudge brush and pull down the edges of it to do the shadow fading. Erase that to get that rock out. Grab this color. Let's flatten this out a bit. Yeah, it's not bad. Again, we're adding and then we're subtracting. A lot of this Stippling technique relies on adding and then subtracting to be able to randomize how the actual brush, the pixels actually appear inside of the piece. So that, carve it out a little bit, and then here, carve that out. Not bad. I'm going to use a percentage of the eraser to work in some of this into darker bits. And then we're going to take this, the black base, and we're going to use our the grass tool that we built and use 100% erase to carve at the bottom of this a little bit to pull it into the shape here. There we go. Ah, not bad. Now let's work in some of the highlights on top of that. Go with more round. I don't know if that's the greatest brush or not. It's interesting texture. And that's all we're really looking for right now, so I'm happy with that. And we are less than 2 minutes left, so I think what I want to do for now is back off a bit. Let's grab those out of the sky. Bush. So when we come back next week, we're just going to play with some more brush shapes. I think we can probably do some cool stuff like let's go with left bush. And then we can come back in here with this here. No, my dude, thank you. You can drop in some stuff like this. That's horrible. But I need to look at what is going to balance this equation out a bit. I feel like there should be something like this, filling this space here. I'm not sure necessarily what that needs to be. Hey, right on. All right, so this is where we're at for the day. Yeah, making progress. Got some good texture going on. When we finish up this composition, then we will drop all these tools into a little ABR file that we'll be able to have either on our Patreon or like maybe send out as an email type thing. But I'm liking how this is coming along overall. These are all just me on the fly, just building brushes. I don't necessarily know if these are the right. Like, I like the mountain brushes. I like this background tree texture, but like in the process, we switched to an older, more reliable brush that I like here, and maybe we'll just mess around with some of the other brushes that I already have built for just to demonstrate them, just to see how they play out. But I'm fairly happy. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with this grass texture that we use. We can check out some of the other grass texture brushes that we use, but I don't feel that's complete yet. So, but we're gonna keep picking at this. This is just an experimental stuff. Obviously, pulling up just to remind you guys where we started at with this stuff. Let's go down to the Reclamant cover art. Here, this is what we created 2 weeks ago. And you can see the amount of texture and interest that we can create with various brushes. We're just currently building one type of brush. This is for a fantasy book cover, but you can see just the amount of depth of texture and color information that we can have sitting inside of here. And some of the older Bob Technique stuff that we have, like this is one of Bob's paintings that we had, one of the older ones we had created. And let's see. Mystic Mountain will probably be familiar to folks. Blomp. So, we're coming along. So that's the idea. We're just spontaneously building brushes, dropping them on here, seeing how they play with, and then looking at how those techniques work. So when we come back next week, I think I'm just going to grab some of the older brushes that we've used before that I know that I like the texture, just to be able to flesh out and make this this foreground just sing a little bit more than it does. And I think I want to change up the clouds in the sky here. So that I have more interest that pulls the piece. Like I want to get the piece so it's pulling back into the page like this. So like if I get some fluffy stuff like this that's pushing in this direction, I think that'll probably end up balancing the picture better. But I don't. This is just a spontaneous. I could even take the whole composition and pick it up and slide it over if I really wanted to. We could take all this and just literally push it to the side and then build out something more that curves over like this to have a little bit more. I don't know if that's going to better balance the piece or not, but this is some of the stuff that we could do. So we're going to play with it a little bit more. Anyway, I'm going to be back next week. Thanks a lot for sticking around, checking it out. Like, subscribe. I'm here Monday through Friday doing fantasy illustrations for Dungeons & Dragons. On Mondays and Thursday nights, I do cartography and token production for Dungeons & Dragons Adventuring. And then on Tuesday, I do Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition mechanics design. So if any of this stuff is interesting, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney, and I will see you guys and explore with some more ideas next week. See you then.